Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about early morning workers. It's my Fun Friday video. I'm talking to you, my fellow early morning people, because I know you don't get the kudos that you deserve. Everyone's talking about the people who work late. Everyone likes to talk about how they burn the midnight oil. Nobody talks about my peeps who come in at 6 or 7 a.m. and start working. So I wanted to talk about that. People have noticed that my videos are often very dark. And that's because I like to get up really early. I usually get up about 4 or 5 in the morning. Earlier, if insomnia hits, and I have a video where I'm not going to link, that's the word insomnia in the title, and I look hideous. But what that means is I'm often at this desk by 6 or 7 in the morning. And the first thing I like to do is, if I'm going to make a video that day, I like to film it before I get into other things that will distract me for hours. Well, guess what? Up here in the Seattle area, it's usually dark at 6 or 7 in the morning. It's summer here now, so it's light, but frequently this room will be pitch black because sunrise won't hit till 8 or 9 in the morning. So you see a lot of dark videos on this channel, especially if I get up even earlier because I can't sleep and I'm like, I'll make a video. It's going to be dark. I will start by saying I wasn't always an early riser. I used to love sleeping in. I never pulled an all-nighter in college or grad school. My first all-nighter actually was at Interplay on Rags to Riches. But I really became an early morning person when I got the project Fallout assigned to me. It was the first game I was in charge of. I was the project lead, the producer, lead programmer, designer. I had so much to do with the game. And I decided early on that no one was going to work harder on it than I was. I didn't want to be one of those bosses who leads from behind and says, "Hey, everybody, I hope you get a lot of stuff done. I got to go to dinner, bye." So I came in really, really early. I wanted to beat everyone in. Usually did it. Occasionally, a few people would get in before me. I also started bringing in baked goods. And that way, it was like, that was my way of rewarding people. You want to come in early with me? Have cinnamon bread. It's on me. I baked it this morning. And that was great. I know nowadays people go, that was horrible life balance, and you were trying to convince people to have bad life balance, and you're a horrible manipulator. I don't know what to say to those people. I wanted to do the hours. I wanted to put in all the hours I could. I wanted that project, my first one I was in charge of, to be the best it possibly could. If other people wanted to do it, I wanted to reward them. But if you want to view that as manipulation, that's on you. Then after I left Interplay and I started Troika with Leonard Barsky and Jason Anderson, I became the person who went in early to open up the office. For some reason, we discovered our office was the first drop-off point. I think it was Airborne Express. Might have even been FedEx too. Basically, if we had a package coming, we always got it as their first delivery in the morning, meaning the guy was there at 8 a.m., sometimes even a little earlier. And if you weren't there to get it, they wouldn't leave it. They'd leave a sticker and you had to drive down to the package center and pick it up. So I started coming in early, like 7 a.m. I'd open up the office. I'd turn on the lights. I'd get everything set up, and I'd grab all the latest code. I'd do a get from our source safe or Perforce or whatever it was we were using. I think it was Perforce by then. And I'd start working. That worked great. Then I adopted a dog, Cooter, a Belgian Shepherd from a rescue where he'd been for 6 months. He would wake me up every morning at dawn. So around 5 or 6 a.m., cold, wet nose would just nudge into me, firmly but gently, until I got up. And I thought, when I first got him, I thought he was upset or he had to go to the bathroom. No. He wanted to do what I called his perimeter check. He went out in the backyard and went along the back fence, the side fence, up to the front yard, and checked the front yard, looked out the gate, and then he visibly would go... Then he'd go potty, then he'd come in and want breakfast, and then by then I'm up. So because of him, it really cemented, I guess I'm an early morning person now, which was great when we got Abby, the freak dog, because as a puppy, she would wake up at 3 in the morning and cry until we let her outside. And then she wanted to play, and she was up. So, boom. If my first dog didn't cement me as an early morning riser, the second dog did. By the way, it's not the first dog I owned. It's just the first dog I had as an adult. So then it was permanent. And I was an early morning person. So let me tell you some of the advantages and disadvantages of being an early morning person. Probably the biggest advantage that I don't think late night workers know about is there's this feeling of getting more done by noon than most people do all day. And it's weird and it's satisfying that by the time you go to lunch, you've probably done more than a lot of people will get done, including the rest of the day. And the reason for that is there are just no interruptions in the morning. You roll into the office at 6 or 7 a.m., you can grab the latest build, have a cup of coffee, check, play the build a little bit, start on whatever code or designs you left off from the night before, which I always like to do because it gets me going in the morning. If I leave something simple but clear that needs to be done, I can roll right into that in the morning and it puts me back in the zone. And there's no interruptions. There aren't people coming in and asking you questions. There aren't meetings. No one's got to schedule a meeting for 7 a.m. It also meant that because I always knew my schedule was open and free in the morning, I often schedule interviews for that. If you've seen any interviews with me, especially lately, it's almost always a 7 or 8 a.m. interview. I schedule it for that, which if they're on the East Coast, that's 10 or 11 in the morning for them, and it's great. If they're in the EU, it's in the afternoon, sometimes a late afternoon, and that's great. If they're on the West Coast, I'm usually like, well, I don't know if I'll be free at 10, but I know I'm free at 8, and I usually get them to do it. When I was a contractor, for the last few years, I could easily handle any client in the EU because if they wanted to have a meeting at 3 p.m., that might be 6 or 7 a.m. here. And I'd be like, sure, I can do it, no problem. And I did it. It was great. I especially liked it when I was working with some clients who were French because they would be out the door at 5. France has some pretty strict office hour rules. But I did try speaking French once, and I was told I was terrible. And I kind of blame my French teacher who was from Alabama, who kind of talked like, "Comment allez-vous, y'all?" Anyway, it was great to work with EU clients because I could be available for meetings very early in the morning. Now let me talk about some disadvantages, though. You are wiped out by late afternoon. If people scheduled meetings at like 4 p.m. or, God forbid, 5 p.m., I would be exhausted. For them, it's just a few hours after lunch and they're still bopping. And I'm like, oh, God, can we finish this up? I remember somebody tried scheduling me for a 6 p.m. meeting, and I'm like, I will have been gone for an hour. And they're like, how can you leave at 5? And I'm like, you get in at 6, and then you tell me how I can leave at 5. And that brings me to the next huge disadvantage of being an early morning worker is that no one seems to care. They're due kudos about everyone who's at their desk at 10 p.m., but no one will say a peep about you being at your desk at 6 a.m. And I can tell you, when I made Outer Worlds, I made it a point to notice who was coming in early. And I would go around and tell them sometimes that I appreciated them being in early. And I surprised an artist one day. It was probably 6 or 7 in the morning, and I was walking by his office, and I backed up, and I'm like, hey, man, you're here. It's good to see you. I appreciate people who come in and work early. And he started telling me that no one had ever said that to him. He was all smiles, and he said he had to come in early because he had to pick his son up from daycare, and they had a very strict, you can't be there like after 5:30. So he had to leave the office at 5, so he tried to come in. I think he said he had to be in by 8, but he even tried to get in by 7. And I just said, look, the reasons are your own, but I just appreciate seeing people in here working early. As much as I appreciate them being in late, and I know early mornings like you, early workers like you, never get any kudos. And he said, you are literally the first person who has ever mentioned it to me. And that made me feel good, but it also made me realize that no one really notices early morning people. They only notice the late night people. And that's a huge disadvantage because I've seen people who are trying to get promotions and I've seen some people who are just trying to look busy rather than be busy. And they do it by working late. And nobody ever did it by coming in early. At least nobody I saw. Everyone I knew who was coming in early were either early morning people or had a reason they had to leave early, so they were in there early. Anyway, I just wanted to do this Fun Friday video because I wanted to say to all my early morning peeps, I see you.